Long before you could send a text, in a split second, sending a simple message was slow, really expensive, and honestly, a bit of a gamble. Today, we're going to talk about how one tiny, sticky piece of paper kicked off a massive communication revolution, way, way before the internet was even a dream. This is the story of the penny post. So, just how different were things back in the 1830s? Well, it was basically the complete opposite of how things work today. Can you imagine getting a letter and you have to pay the mailman to read it? Not only that, but it was incredibly expensive and might take weeks to even show up. Yeah, a totally different world, right? So let's dive into that. Before 1840, the postal system was, to put it lightly, a mess. For most people, sending a letter wasn't even an option they'd consider. It was just way too complicated and way too expensive. And when I say expensive, I mean really expensive. Just imagine having to pay more than what you earn in a whole day of work just to receive a single letter from your family. That was the reality. For a lot of people, if a letter arrived, they'd actually have to turn it away because they just couldn't afford to pay for it. The old system was just full of problems. It wasn't just that the receiver had to pay. The price also depended on how many sheets of paper you used and how far the letter traveled. This created a huge issue. People would just refuse to pay the postman at the door. Some even got really clever and came up with secret codes they'd draw on the outside of the envelope. That way, the person receiving it could see the code, get the message, like, I'm okay, and then refuse the letter, getting the news without paying a single cent. Okay, so into this complete mess steps our hero, a teacher and inventor named Rowland Hill. He took one look at this broken system and just knew there had to be a better way to connect the entire country. His big idea was, well, it was pretty radical for the time. He basically argued that if you made mail super cheap, then everyone would start using it. And he believed that all those new letters, even at a tiny price, would somehow make the post office more money in the end. Which, leads to a pretty obvious question. How does that even work? How could charging less for something possibly make you more money? It sounds completely backwards. Well, his logic was simple, but it was absolutely brilliant. First, he said, create one single low price for everybody, no matter how far the letter is going. Second, because it's now affordable, the number of people sending letters would just skyrocket. And third, and this is the key, making a tiny profit from millions of letters is way, way better than making a big profit from just a few. And you know what? After a lot of debate, Rowland Hill actually convinced the government. And just like that, a revolution in communication was about to begin, all thanks to a single penny. So on January 10th, 1840, it became official. The uniform penny post was launched. For the very first time, anyone could send a letter anywhere in the country for just 1 penny. And, crucially, the sender, not the receiver, paid for it in advance. But that raises a question, right? How could you prove you'd already paid? With this brilliant little invention, the penny black. This was the world's very first postage stamp, and it had a sticky back. You just buy this tiny piece of paper with the Queen's face on it, lick it, stick it on your letter, and boom, you were good to go. Honestly, this stamp was a total game changer. It was simple proof that postage was paid, which solved the whole problem of people refusing their mail. It also made sorting and processing letters way faster, stopped all that fraud, and was just super convenient for everyone. It was the perfect fix. And just like that, the journey of a letter became smooth and incredibly efficient. You drop it in a postbox, it would get sorted at a local office, then loaded onto a mail coach, or even better, a brand new steam train, and finally, it was delivered right to the door. But here's the thing. This wasn't just about making mail cheaper or more efficient. The penny post created this massive ripple effect that changed pretty much every part of society. So did Rowland Hill's crazy theory actually work? Oh yeah, the success was immediate and it was huge. The number of letters being sent didn't just go up a little bit, it exploded. It doubled and then tripled almost overnight. Think about the domino effect here. Now that people had a real reason to write, literacy rates went up because more people wanted to learn to read. Families who had moved apart for work could finally stay in touch. Businesses could send orders and advertisements across the entire country. And the idea was so good that other countries started copying it, which eventually led to a global mail network. And what's really cool is that the timing couldn't have been better because another revolution was happening at the exact same time: railways. Steam trains were so much faster than the old horse-drawn coaches, and they could carry a ton more mail. They even had special carriages called traveling post offices, where workers could sort the mail while the train was actually moving. It made the whole system unbelievably fast. So when you really stop and think about it, what the penny post did for the 19th century, it isn't all that different from what technology does for us today. You could almost say it was their version of the internet. I mean, the parallel is pretty striking. Both the penny post and the internet have the exact same fundamental goal: to make communication accessible to everyone. One used a little sticky stamp, the other uses a global network. But the impact? It was exactly the same. They both shrank the world and connected people like never before. So the legacy of that tiny little stamp is still all around us today. The whole idea of a universal service, paying one flat rate to send something anywhere, that started right here. It was proof that making things affordable for everyone isn't just a nice idea, it's actually a great business model. In a very real way, the penny post laid the groundwork for the instantly connected world we all live in. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. The penny post was a really simple idea that completely transformed society. So what do you think is the next simple but revolutionary idea that's going to totally change how we all connect with each other?